athletes from all major sports and has even won 3 Presidential Awards for excellence in research. He's developed over 6,200 nutritional products worldwide. I actually have a slide that's supposed to show you all of this.
Is it my good one?
It should be the good ones.
Okay.
Don't tell me if it's not.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Look at that. I'm ahead of myself now. So, he's developed 6,200 nutritional products, resulting in over $5 billion worth of sales worldwide. By the way, in his college and university, through his PhD, he was an honor student. He's one of those guys who just kind of didn't like to have in the class, but so grateful to have him on our team. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Bill Wheeler. Sitting next to him is a world-renowned nutritionist and wellness expert. You all know him as the ingredient hunter and the co-creator of Shakeology. He's also a certified personal trainer and nutritionist with a long list of celebrity clients. He's the founder of Better Planet, a nonprofit alliance of top investors, national engineers, and UN advisors who use clean technology to solve global humanitarian problems in water and food. To Beachbody, he's our very own ambassador of agriculture. Please welcome Darin. I'm also very fortunate to have a woman who works as a nutrition advisor at Beachbody. Some of her many accomplishments include being a designer and expert trainer for Freeport Fitness. She has also been a guest fitness writer for Shake Magazine. Her fitness contributions have been featured in magazines and on television. She's also been a trainer and advisor to several top athletes, special actors and actresses, and men and women in the fashion industry. Fortunately, to have with us Isabelle. With you, Isabelle and Darin. I think that some people know, but not many know, that when you look at Shakeology is a combination of superfoods. But you two have both been in the business of providing superfood concoctions, blends, if you will, suggestions to the super wealthy for a long time, right? Is that accurate?
Yeah, for 20 years. Me too, right?
Yeah, it's part of the journey.
And Shakeology just kind of represents a unique product in the sense that these are superfoods that only the super wealthy can really afford.
Well, and also, you know, I used to have to buy 25 things, mix them at home, figure out how much to get what I felt was essential. So I think it's the accumulation of, and same thing with you, right? It's an accumulation of wanting to deliver what we had to just put so much effort and research in all these elements and combine them in a way that you guys would not have to do that. Not everybody has the patience, the time to do that. Literally, I would just spend hours in crazy places all over town and just go home and figure it out, and it never tasted good. But I didn't mind, although it tastes so good now, it's much better, but I didn't mind it, but I knew that nobody would, most people would probably not, except Darin, would probably not swallow that stuff. But really, that's what's great about it, is this is what we were doing for ourselves and for our clients for so long, and now we can do it for thousands of people.
Did either of you ever imagine that we'd be able to reach so many people so quickly?
No, it's really cool.
It's exceeded my wildest expectations on every level, and it continues to go. And I think like Isabelle said, I mean, the more Shakeology is being drunk, the more we're able to actually get more and more quality ingredients, because that enables us to go all the way to the farmer and work deals that there's no other company that I've seen that's been able to do that. And so that's how things can evolve and continues to evolve. So we're in a position where, the common thing between fitness and celebrities is they have a body, just like everyone. And so it's the same. We go into it the same way, but now we get to do it on such a massive scale. So it's
yeah, that's very true, because when you said, you know, when you wrote, you read my introduction, it felt like, wait, that has nothing to do with anything, the fact that I work with celebrities. It was just like, okay, the point is all the other things you didn't mention, but I know it looks cool, right? You're impressed now, right? If I can do it to a celebrity, I can do it to you. But, you know, yeah, it's just, we're all the same. And if it works for me, it should work for most.
That's the thing. The hardest part of putting this together was Isabelle is so humble and so focused on doing the right thing. It's so hard for me to get from her all the wonderful things she does. But people fly from all over the world. They know about Isabelle. They've flown her to places to train them. They've come here because she's so good, and people know that she's not going to get caught up in stuff. She's going to be very focused. And the fact that we've got her behind Shakeology and working with us is remarkable.
Well, it's also, no, go ahead.
No, I was going to compliment her even more, because I get into some weird stuff. I find some interesting things. I talk to interesting people and doctors and whatnot, and man, there's times where I find some stuff and I'm stoked, and you know, more times than not, Isabelle's already knows about it or understands it, and it's great to have that synergy, and that was from day one, literally day one when I first saw her and met her. It was that we had a synergy, that integrity and where we were going, what we were doing was just linked, and that's it.
Yeah, literally, whatever ingredients I had from Shakeology, my dream, he showed up with the stuff he liked, and it was basically like we copied each other. It was unbelievable. I hired him, whatever Carl says, I'm in his ear. He has nothing to do with it. He was hired.
Carl, do you want to rebuttal?
I don't know if he's here. I hope not. But I was going to say something. Yeah, I was going to say, you know, my heart is in my heart, and my passion and my humbleness. First of all, it comes with a passion. When you're really passionate about something, it's like you're trying to be humble. It has nothing to do. All that other stuff has nothing to do with your passion. When you do love something and you believe in it and you're passionate about it, you're just engulfed in it. And everything else just doesn't exist. It's like, what? You're in it. And I'm not the only one, because none of this could happen if all these guys and many others at BB and Carl were not as passionate, as dedicated and committed to the truth, to the path, to honesty, to no compromise, and keeping on track. And I believe that that's a difference in the company, is that everybody is committed, truly committed, and you are too. And that commitment makes a huge difference, because if you compromise just a little tiny bit, it feels like it's not a big deal, but before you know it, you've compromised 25 times, and you were supposed to head over there, and you're way over there. And that's the difference, and that's the commitment, and every day you don't compromise at all. Every day you keep going, so that in 10 years from now, we're still going this way. We're not over there, and I can't do that by myself. It means that everybody is like that with me, and that's the difference. That's why Beachbody is something that I'm so proud of. Yeah, thank you.
Many people are probably curious to say, wow, these are three remarkable individuals, all with tons of experience, and now kind of working together as a superfood, kind of a super team. I'm sure people are kind of interested in the roles that the three of you play and kind of how you remain involved. I think many people would be shocked to know how much Shakeology work is being done behind the scenes of development. Is that true? Yeah.
I don't even have a word for it. I mean, Bill's help on, you know, everything from, I mean, literally, think about it for a second. When you have a farmer in the middle of nowhere sometimes, and you're growing something specifically for a purpose, and you're taking care of the soil, and you're working with that person, that and that process, and that goes to a handler who's taking it to the manufacturing, who's taking it to the next step and the manufacturing has 37 steps sometimes to carefully do it. And then you have all the relationships, and then you have the logistics, and you have international, and you have everything coming through, and you're testing it sometimes 5, 6, 7 times in a variety of different ways, and then it's here. And now it's here, and then you've got manufacturing and all the relationships with that. That's one ingredient. It's one ingredient. And and each ingredient has a completely different drying process than the other. So all of that arduousness and testing, I mean, Bill didn't have the experience he had, I think he would have tapped out a little while ago. But, this isn't an isolated thing. We're throwing a bunch of stuff together and making it taste good. And, this is plant-based materials, and it's a different world.
It's alive.
Yeah.
How do you, we get the question often, how do you keep these superfoods in a state that they really can be healthy for the body? How do you dry them? How do you bring them to market? Shakeology that maintains the actives?
Well, there's a lot of ways you can answer that. I mean, it comes down to, someone was asking yesterday too, and I think it goes down to, each ingredient in each food specifically has its own qualities to it, and it reacts differently. One can be sun-dried, and it's okay. One can be air-dried, and it can be okay. One can be sun-dried with a little air-dry, with a little freeze-drying, and it's stable. So each individual ingredient it comes down to, think of it this way, and this is an easy way for you guys to share it. When you have something like, for example, camu, that's used. Okay, you have camu berry, right? It's got water in it. It's got over 90% water. If you target the water and dehydrate it correctly, water is the ultimate synergist and catalyst. So if you dehydrate it, everything's suspended. So the art, I think, of powdering correctly is understanding the plant, understanding its active constituents, and then caring for it along the way, and then targeting that water. And once you dehydrate that properly, it's suspended, so you put it in a bag, you add that water, and you take it in, and now you've got what? You've just activated it again with its catalyst, the water.
That's a simple way for you to say it.
Yeah, I mean, it's... That's great. So, without getting into every single ingredient, but, that's part of when we go out in the middle of nowhere, it's a constant question. It's constantly asking. The experts who are there and have cared for it already, and how do the indigenous use it, and how can we use it, and how can we adapt to it. And we've just been looking into some new drying technologies that I can't get into, but they're game changers. And
it's so exciting.
Yeah,
There's so much happening. That's the best thing about this, right? Is
I'm
that
sorry to tease you. We're sorry to tease you.
No, I'm not. No, it's great. You make 5 steps, and there's like 8 amazing steps in front of you that are incredible, that are coming up, and it's like constant changes and evolution and getting better and better. It's just unbelievable. This thing he's talking about is great.
Well, let's talk about something if you can't talk about it.
Okay, all right.
So
he's pulling us back.
Yeah.
We're going to go off.
The tropical, we bring into tropical some really exciting new ingredients. We're going to talk about a lot of that. There's some really interesting technology that's been brought into it. The sweeteners come together with some real whole foods that actually provide the sweetener rather than injecting a sweetener as is the traditional method, if you will. Talk to us a little bit about this coconut, what do you say, coconut flower nectar, as we watch you write this.
That wasn't easy.
That's not the coconut.
But those are the coconuts. Those are literally in the area. And this is the coconut tree is the plant's life, right? It's an amazing tree, and actually underutilized, I think. And the way this coconut flower nectar, you know, there's coconut water, there's coconut oil, there's coconut milk, but no one is really using well, in a sense, it's the blood of the coconut tree. And it comes from the flower of the coconut. So instead, oh, there we go. So you cut, before it flowers, you cut that off. It's called the spathe. And these guys shimmy up these trees, and I gave it a go, and it's so difficult. These guys do sometimes 40 to 70 a day. And what they're doing is they cut that spathe off, and they take this bamboo like cup with a string on it, they run up with a knife, they shimmy up, they cut that spathe off, they put that over it, it just drips in there all day. And that nectar happens to be sweet. So it was such a great experiment for us to move it into tropical because yeah, it's sweet. It actually even looks like brown sugar, but it's got glutathione, it's got B vitamins, it's got amino acids. It's like it's defying all the laws of a regular sugar. So you know that again is a great old ancient discovery that is utilized in a plant that we all know of. And so anyway, that is my short answer. I babbled.
That was short. We cut about 15 minutes off the program.
But no, it's a very exciting product for sure, and the tests on it are exceeding our expectations so far.
And that's the beauty too, is that there is no reason to put crap in the food we eat, because everything exists. Everything to make it taste good, to thicken it, to whatever it is that we need to do. You don't need to do anything bad to it to make it happen. You can find it in its purest form with more than you could intellectually come up with, because nature came up with so much more. We're just catching up constantly, and we think we're so smart. And so the more we can dig in, the more we can bring in, the more can come out and market it and show everybody that you do not have to bastardize a product and ruin it and kill it to make it taste good at all. It's an old school, old thinking. Ignorance,
yeah.
Really.
And laziness, really. I mean, it took, that first Shakeology, I remember it was a year and a half just on the flavor alone. I mean, not to mention the other year it took to do all those things. I mean, it's like, listen, the manufacturer could have tapped out a long time ago. There's many times you decide to go, seriously, it's going to happen. You know, it's just, let's stay with it. I'm just pushing him and pushing him and pushing him. And now I think the first, Bill introduced me to this manufacturer, the first thing I say is, I'm not easy to work with. I'm not, because I will not compromise on that. I can't do it. It goes against everything that I am. And Isabelle and Carl, Carl gave me that baton, and Isabelle gave me that baton. I'm like, cool, let's do this. And so that's, so as we're evolving, there's more and more things that just make it easy for us because we're discovering, like Isabelle said, the world's natural gifts. Let's be subordinate to nature. Let's observe it. Let's learn from it. Let's take it in and then use it.
Hey, Bill, what do you think about that?
Well, no, what I would say is realize a lot of the ingredients have never been used before. And what that requires is a challenge on the technical side. How do you identify it? How do you assure that you're getting coconut nectar? How do you stabilize it? Is it stable in a formula? All the kind of questions that go from manufacturing side. And realize too that we're in the manufacturing facility when the product's manufactured. So we're constantly looking at Shakeology and the different ingredients going in. Also realize that by law, you only have to have 90% of what you're claiming on the label in the bag. Some companies formulate for only 60% of what's on the label. And their philosophy is, hey, we probably never will get caught. If we get caught, the money we will have made is a lot more than the fine we'll get. That's actually going on. We formulate for 100% of label claim with a 2-year shelf life, which means we put overages in. So that at the end of 2 years, we can take a bag of Shakeology and analyze it, and it's 100% of label claim. So that's the detail that we go into. And I might say too, realize that Shakeology is very, very special from a standpoint when Darin and Isabelle say we don't cut any corners. We don't cut any corners. I used to formulate for other companies, and companies would call me up and say, we want the very best product money can buy. And I would formulate it, and they'd say, no, it's too expensive. So take something out. And they'd say, well, it's still too expensive. After about the 3rd or 4th pass, there wasn't anything in the formula. Whereas with Shakeology, there's nothing out, everything's in. The quality, the identity, for example, every single ingredient going into Shakeology, we analyze, we fingerprint to be sure it's exactly what we want it to be in there. And then we're continually, from the manufacturing side, questions like, do you use a tumble blender or do you use a ribbon blender? Stability issues, all those kinds of things. There are literally a million steps in the manufacture, from starting with the farmers to the manufacturers till you get a bag of Shakeology. There is a tremendous amount of expertise, science, and technology that is in that particular bag that you don't see, but you sure taste it.
You know, you've talked to me in the past about this idea of taste and stability and some of the challenges. I think many of us think 70 or so ingredients, you just throw them all in there, no problem, right? Put them all together and poof, you got Shakeology. But from what I've learned from you, there really is a science to the order in which these ingredients come together. The order actually can affect taste, it can affect stability. And in many cases, these ingredients, these superfoods are like cats, right? You've got to figure out how to herd them in the formula. Is that safe?
Absolutely. I mean, we'll spend hours tasting different sequences of adding to a particular formula. And the complexity of Shakeology with over 80 ingredients just multiplies it. Now, Brett, do you know what species has the most taste buds per square inch of mouth?
I hate to show up for all these people.
It happens to be the catfish.
Really?
Catfish has 32 taste buds per square inch of mouth. What has the least is the chicken. The chicken has 1 taste bud per square inch of mouth.
I just feel bad that you know that.
I just had to show off.
Someday.
So we're gonna have the new testing of Shakeology taster be the catfish.
Yeah.
That's where we're going.
That's the big news Carl didn't share with you earlier. Now we're sharing.
What did the catfish say about it?
But it is very complex. I mean, all of you have tasted other shakes that have artificial flavors, artificial sweeteners in it. What they're doing is they're overloading your taste buds with artificial. So you can't really taste what it is. You taste it. I mean, have you ever tasted some of these shakes that have some of these artificial sweeteners in there and it just overloads your mouth where you can't taste anything? Aftertaste, right, has the kick. Whereas you talk about Shakeology where everything is natural, it's harder to do because of mixing sequence. What do you add first? What do you add second? How long do you mix? All those kinds of factors come into the equation, and it is a very, very complex product. It's probably it is the most complex product I've ever had the pleasure of working with, because you can't just throw stuff in a blender, put it in a bag, and sell it. Again, that taste, how we add them, how they fit together, what is the taste profile, all these kinds of questions are heavily involved from a technical standpoint on the manufacturing side. The easy shake to make is just to throw artificial flavor, artificial sweetener, and let it go. But a lot of times with the Shakeology, realize that behind the scenes there are tens of hundreds of people who are putting input as far as the sequence of all of this and how we have you a consistent flavor from time to time.
All right, they're going to hear a little bit about a new type of salt that I've never heard about, some kind of Himalayan salt.
So good.
Tell me about that.
Yes, sir.
Go.
Okay. Well, you know, gosh, I'm a bad boy. I can feel it.
I'll stop. The timer here, you've got 40 seconds.
Okay, go. Himalayan crystal salt is something we've also been experimenting with. It's a great synergist in adding with formulas. Salt is the correct salt is a very, very underutilized element and structure in everyone's diet, and so you're going to go back like salt. Well, the salt that you've been given and been taught about is stripped, except with one, iodine put back in it so it won't kill you, because it actually was killing people. Now it's just a slow kind of, no comment.
Slow death.
That's on you, no. So Himalayan crystal salt has got, it's been, you know, throughout the Himalayas, but it has been compressed and created in natural crystal structure for 250,000 years on this planet, and it has about 84 trace minerals in it. So what is that? So the salt and all those trace minerals and electrolytes are the things that access cells. So when you talk about calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium, all of these things, they have to be a particular size. The size does matter. So consider calcium. Well, most times when people say take a mineral supplement, a lot of mineral supplements out there take calcium, magnesium, potassium, but it's like trying to put a molecule of calcium that's the size of a truck into something the size of that clock. It can't work. So the addition of Himalayan crystal salt is it's communicating with your cells, it's getting more usable minerals into your body, and it also has an alchemy with sugar. You have to use less sugar because of the salt and sugar interaction. So anyway, I'll just kind of stop. There's a lot to say about salt. And salts also will be coming out eventually in our cleanse, because we're getting a lot more detail about salt. You get into pH and alkalinity and on and on. So.
Having like the right password, like a famous disco or rock place, you need a password. And Himalayan salt is the right password to go into your cell and bring the good stuff in.
Exactly. Yeah, so
that's the actual word.
Consider anything that naturally crystallizes in nature, naturally harmonizes, biochemically matches, and cleans itself. So that crystalline structure has perfectly created itself so that it's bioavailable to us. So if you start pulling it around and doing your thing to it, and then taking all the other minerals and then selling them back to you in other forms, well, now it's in a sense kind of poisonous. So so there's a whole re-education about salt. Google it. Look for yourself. Don't take what I say as truth. Go find out. This is the great thing about Shakeology, is like, a lot of people say, oh, you've got a great job. Yeah, I do. I love my job, and I love the curiosity that pulls me. So the Shakeology that is there, you guys have like all these things that are now exposed to you. Dig into it. Yeah. Look at it. Like I get my mind blown on a weekly basis because, I was just telling Isabelle, this microbiologist came over to my place and he just fried my circuits. Like the things we got into, I was like, holy cow.
Like barely got it back in time for summit.
Exactly. I didn't know what end was up, but we'll be introducing some of that. There's more stuff that I want to talk about.
I know.
Now there is a sodium-potassium balance you mentioned. This Himalayan salt helps us with, right?
Yeah, it's the Himalayan pink salt is in the tropical you tasted yesterday, and it's important that there's a balance between sodium and potassium. Now, for example, when Darin and Isabelle first told me about the Himalayan salt, it was would have been back in January, February. It actually has lowered my blood pressure by using that as the only salt. In fact, I will put that in my drinking water. I'll use distilled water with a pinch of Himalayan salt. It has an ideal ratio of sodium to potassium. And again, it has a great flavor. So if you look at the tropical, part of the key to that smooth, rich flavor that you tasted yesterday is a small amount of the Himalayan pink salt in there. It does wonders with the taste buds.
Yeah, if you taste regular salt and you taste Himalayan salt, it's just like you've discovered a new country. It has nothing to do with anything that you've ever had.
Yeah, you won't believe it. I mean, and just, I gotta leave with something. Leave behind after I can't help it, I get my ADD kicks in. If you want a really great balanced water, pH balanced, and something that's assimilated, get an empty water that's distilled, which is a balance of 7.0, and add a pinch of Himalayan crystal salt to it. You'll have a assimilative water that is that you can actually hydrate from and get your electrolytes from. So don't buy into all of the, there's a lot of pH things being thrown around, and there is some truth to it, but there's a lot of lies to it. But distilled water with a pinch of Himalayan crystal salt will make a great water. So you just have to.
Yeah, easy.
Himalayan crystal salt can be found at any
store.
kind of higher end health food store. I don't think it's hit like
Google it.
Amazon. You can find it online. Just make sure you do a little due diligence. We're actually going to be having some coming out in the cleanse. So, we'll make sure that it's the quality, of course. So, but it's part of kind of the momentum that we're getting into, that Shakeology's allowed us to start getting into, and that's really talking about optimum health and optimum ways of living. And there's a lot of elements to that.
All right, we have a couple more questions we're going to answer that came in before. If you have questions, you want to use Twitter to communicate at TBBMD. We'll read those questions as we get time here. There often are questions that come through where our coaches ask, tell us exactly what ingredients provide the energy in Shakeology, or what ingredients are responsible for the weight loss in Shakeology. Isabelle, how do you respond to that?
Well, again, I'm always interested in how people want one answer, want one thing that does everything. And I wish it was that simple, but it's not. And it's the synergy of all these things. It's the fact that there are things that are more easily assimilable intracellularly, meaning into your cell. In Shakeology, it is that it's whole food. It is that it's free and probiotic. It is that it's not, we haven't maxed a lot of everything, so it's too much for your body to ingest. The quality, the processing, it's all of it. It's all of it that makes it so good. Just give me this one answer. What makes people happy? It's like, it's this silly thing that we look for this one simple thing, and yet there's beauty and fun in incorporating all these elements. It's interesting. It brings up curiosity, and it's what Shakeology is so great. It's because we are interested in all the elements. We're not trying to sell you some BS. This is the one thing miracle in this product, and you must have it. It's all of it, and we are people that go deeply into all these elements, and we love it, and we're excited by it. We bring it all together, and it's all of it that works.
You've got the easiest and the hardest thing to do to communicate this, because the easiest thing to do is talk from that place about this orchestra, and that's exactly, it's funny, it's the exact way that I had to kind of talk to Carl about the formulation, because previous things on, protein powders and stuff, but no one has really done an orchestra. And I had to, literally, I wrote this huge, remember that? I wrote that huge letter, like, okay. Because I had to educate a lot of Beachbody people way back in the day, because the monumental task of a product like this, I said, imagine having a melody. You have a melody of an idea of a song. And you're like, okay, and that idea of the song is the healthiest meal of the day. Whatever that is. And so, okay, put that together. And I'm like, okay, cool, got it. I'll see you in a little bit. And so in that process, like, oh, okay, so get a little drum, a little percussion, little string,
Banjo.
a little banjo, harmonica, and all of these things. Now, it's like you can hear each individual element when they all come together. It makes this symphony. And that's the easiest way. You can absolutely grab the maca and the ashwagandha and the adaptogens and go down the list and target some of those and do that for a while. Maybe you grab a few and target a few. You become more of an expert in those and talk about those with the customer. Next time, try something else. Because in that process, you're educating yourself. And now you become the expert for that which you can grab. There's a lot there. So, that's just my suggestion. That's kind of what I do on a daily basis. I wake up pretty early in the morning and I grab something that I'm looking into and I study that.
Yeah. I do that.
Yeah. What time?
After my son is at school.
Okay. So,
that's what's great. We're not intimidated by you knowing what's in it, how it's been processed, what we're after. We're not trying to dumb you out, which is what I feel the market so often does. We want you to know what's in there. We want you to be smart, to be savvy, to be curious, to educate yourself, to investigate, to experiment. We want that because we know what we have is great, and we're going to keep on doing that as well, and we're going to evolve and grow and get better. So that's what's great about this. That's why education is as much part of this company, we think, as delivering great products. We want our people, we want the BB's family to know more and more and more, and to challenge us and everybody else around you more and more and more. That's the trip that we're on.
I mean, Shakeology deserves a network like you. Because I think if we put that and put it on the shelf, we'd be lost. And no one would see the magic in it.
Yeah.
And that would, I always thought multi-level, if anyone, please just would try to make a great product and let the natural process happen, then you got a shot. And finally, I was approached by a few along the way, and the margin that I had to hit wasn't even close to being anything worth anything in some other universe that I would even try. So, so the fact that we're given that opportunity, I think it's a perfect storm. It really is, for you guys to educate, because that's what it's about.
Yeah.
It all goes back to that.
That's what it's about for you. We want you to be able to do it. Like, you need to know, to get what it is that you are talking about, to really get it. Don't be lazy about it. Right?
Right.
Jesus, guys, come on.
A couple questions for you. The calories on chocolate, Shakeology, went from 140 to 150 in the bag. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Okay. We continually test each single batch of Shakeology. I mean, not just every 3 batches or every 4th batch. Every single batch is tested. And what we do is we look at the data, and as the numbers will change, because we're dealing with natural products, we may change something on the bag, and in particular the chocolate Shakeology. As we looked at it, as the ingredients, the chocolate was changed and upgraded, we noticed that, again, the calories went up about 10 calories. Now, I know I received some phone calls from some of you who were very excited, okay? 10 calories, if you will drink water from the refrigerator every day, you'll burn more than 10 calories. So it's not a big deal. You got a great product that tastes great, and again, that was just 10 calories. When you look at your diet as 2,000 calories or 3,000 calories or 4,000 calories if you're an athlete, again, it doesn't amount to anything. It just shows you how particular we are with not just putting Shakeology in a bag, but being sure that we analyze it every single batch. That is a key. Now, also, I'll address something that Darin and Isabelle were talking about. About once a week, I'll receive phone call from a potential coach. And they'll say, I'm not going to drink Shakeology until I know everything there is to know about Shakeology. Well, good luck. Simply because it's a quest. It's a quest for knowledge. It's a quest for discovery. But during that quest, you can have the healthiest meal of the day. Don't neglect that. And again, what we say on the bag is what is in the bag, and I think that's another real key. But again, every batch is analyzed. Every batch we analyze for about 22 different components. From the start of an ingredient that Darin may identify that arrives at a manufacturer to the time it's put in the bag, there's 7 different quality control procedures that are implemented in that process to be sure that it is exactly what we say it is.
Now, Darin, maybe you can answer this next question. There's some who are asking about whether or not Shakeology really is gluten-free. They claim that they read on the label that there are grasses in it, for some reason associate that with gluten. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, people see, I guess, wheat, barley, and oat automatically. But the difference, I'm going to also consider this. So a seed or a nut naturally has enzymes and protective organisms in it so that a animal, some other thing won't eat it when it falls from the tree. So there is issues when you have unsprouted and not grown materials. So, for example, wheat as a seed has those things in place unless, like in Europe, they still do it. They put seeds in. That's why you can eat a lot of breads and stuff there, because their seeds are in a cold, dry place, and it allows for a little moisture to come in, and those enzymes are converted. Usually, like if a walnut falls from a tree, the squirrel will go right by it. But when the rain hits it, it then starts converting, because it's going to get ready to do what? Germinate and sprout. So the grasses in there are all grown grasses. It's already converted into a completely biochemical difference. So it's not wheat, it's wheat grass, barley grass, oat grass. Does that make sense?
All right, we've got 30 minutes left. I'm going to go off script now and go to our questions coming in on Twitter. That's at TVBMD. The first is a question that we've answered before, but we got to answer again. Is Shakeology okay for children? If no, what age can they start?
It's amazing how they're so concerned that Shakeology is okay for children, yet, you know.
We're going to take you to McDonald's
food, and that's okay. I don't need to find out from the experts. If you're okay with McNuggets, you should be okay with Shakeology.
How about pregnant moms, nursing mothers? Any thoughts on that?
I was going to say, I drank it before, during, and after. But Bill, perhaps you have a more conservative approach.
Well, yeah, I usually say, because I'll get that question too, Isabelle, like that. The FDA would like me to answer it saying that check with the pregnant and nursing moms should check with their physicians. And then I'll turn around and say, if my wife were pregnant, thank goodness that's not the case, I would let her use it. But again, I'll pick up on the analogy. Think how pure Shakeology is. Wholesome. Versus some of the other things floating around out there. So again, it's good.
Every so often I'll get it's good. Every so often I just recently got an email from this lady, and she said, yeah, I was worried about my child. He was like 2.5, and he hadn't gone to the bathroom for 2.5 weeks. Yeah, and she was concerned. And I don't know if
Wow.
And then she said, we saw the doctors, although they had no understanding of why that was happening.
Isn't that incredible? Doctor has no understanding of why the child is not pooping.
And instinctually, the child, while the mom's, as things happen, the mom turns her back, and she just made her Shakeology. The kid reached over his little chair on the counter and grabbed it and drank it. Like, I don't know how much he drank. And she just sat there. Within 10 minutes, he went to the bathroom. And it's been regular ever since. And keeps going after it. You don't have edits with children, right? You have an instinctual thing that doesn't have psychosomatic stuff that we tend to pick up on our life journey. But, you know, I'll tell you this too. I ran into this little girl who was 10 years old yesterday too. And I said, you know, a 10-year-old had a lot of influence on me in creating Shakeology. Because when I had it, it was like end of 2006, and I was getting close to some formulation. And I was, you know, nothing was labeled, and I had it at home, and I was playing with it. And my goddaughter from Colorado was there, and I didn't say anything. I just said, "Hey, do you want this shake?" She said, "Yeah." She grabbed it, and she drank it, and she said, "Uncle Darin, I want you to give this to me every day. Food at school sucks." I'm like, I'm dialed in now, I'm good. So, you know, again, the kids listen to those kids sometimes, you know.
Makes me think, do I have time to babble or should we just keep going?
You're all right.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. I was just thinking that it's one of the things that's interesting about the signature of all of us for Shakeology, because I've gone all the extremes, right? I've done like fruitarianism, you know, just raw, just coconut water for 2 months and a half. I even do 3 days of air. Just
that's called the breatharian.
Breatharian. I did that. I did, you know, I went, and I know you did too. I mean, I went everywhere, and and they all have fantastic gifts within it and discoveries. And then I'm in a place, it doesn't mean it's right for everybody, but I'm in a place in my life where, wait, it's like there's no need to go insane in those directions. There's something beautiful about a balance and bringing all of it together and making it work. And I think, I know for me and for Darin, for you too, Bill?
Yep.
Okay. That it's the fact that we're not going like that. We're not going just this is good, just that. Oh, if you do this, you can't do anything else. We don't have that black and white thing. All we care is that if we don't destroy the beauty of nature, the beauty of the ingredients, what is naturally there, and we want to conserve and enhance that for all of us, and we want to bring those together as much as we can. And I think there's a beauty in experience and time, and having lived it and experienced it and tried it all, that we can share that with you, and so you don't have to breathe only air for 3 days. You know?
Yeah, my first 13, I did a grapefruit diet. That was the first kind of, when I realized my body was like just changing. I was like, oh wow, I don't just have to have this, I can actually be an influence in it. And that's what started me on, you know, like we have the joystick, it's choice. Habit is my favorite doctor, Dr. Mosen, that I worked with for 10 years. Habit is health or habit is disease, what are you choosing? So the things that you're doing every day, is that generating your health? And you can get into prosperity and all that too. Or the habit of going to McDonald's and doing that, what are you generating? You're making those choices compounded over time. You're getting results, one way or the other.
I want to pick up on your initial conversation there, Isabelle, the things that you've tried and the balance you've come together, because if I'm not mistaken, you're vegan, and yet you still take Shakeology, right? Can you talk a little about that choice for you?
It's the same thing. I'm not vegan because intellectually I think that vegan is the way and the only way to go. I'm vegan because naturally I tend to just enjoy that kind of food. So it was a progression over my life that it just kind of happened. So I'm not one to think with my head in terms of I've learned through mistakes and to be more and more intuitive. And for me, intuitively, veganism is what I just feel great, and I enjoy that kind of food. But if the way is a healthy way, I have no problem with eating way because I enjoy it and my body feels good. So I'm not one to say, well, I'm vegan, I can't have whey, which is okay for some people. But for me, it's no. Does it feel good? And if it feels good and it tastes good, I go for it. So it's not a thought process. It's how I live, and it's living it and seeing how I feel and how it's affecting me, and then I make my choices from there. So if suddenly eating fish, you know, was going to be great, feel great, and be appealing, because I really enjoy eating. So I can't just, I just enjoy it. It has to be appealing even in the texture and how it smelled and in my mouth and all that stuff. So if fish suddenly felt great, I would have it. Like I don't have a challenge in my head about principles and guidelines and rules and regulations.
It's a really distinct thing that she said. It's something that I've come up against a lot of time. I've worked in a lot of these areas. I've met a lot of vegetarians, vegans, and I've been in every category myself. And I think the thing that she's bringing up, which is so important, is labeling. I think it's the more you go into the journey of educating yourself and experiencing, then you start to develop that listening. And you know, I too wouldn't say I'm one or the other. I have a tendency towards veganism and raw and all that stuff too, but I will not. I'm always in question about it. I'm never yes or no. So if something's appealing, if my body desires something, you have to be willing to receive that information. And, you know, I think there's been a lot of sick vegans that I've seen, many over the years, that body type may not do so well. Keep in mind, I've looked into 25 different cultures around the planet, and Dr. Weston Price did a lot of great research in this, and virtually no indigenous group did not excluded meat, but they had it maybe once a month, once every 3 months, and it was a particular kind, organ meats, very high in irons and enzymes and things like that. So I always go back to the Shakeology, quality, 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 quality.
Exactly.
So, answer we have 2 short quick questions you can answer quickly. Dr. Wither, you want to take these? Are we still looking at a vegan formula, and are there other flavors after tropical?
Well, we're still looking at a vegan formula, and Darin and I have talked about it with Isabelle. We'll start testing various components of it. Probably available sometime first part of next year, Darin.
Yeah.
Again, realize the amount of testing that goes into putting the formulation together, being sure that it's stable before we ever launch it. But it is an active project.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I just have to add, it's a love of mine. We're in this formula, so I'm finding new things. I've got some new bells and whistles. I get to share it with Isabelle and Bill all the time. Some days I have to just call her and just go, oh my God, I just found something. And so then the diligence comes into like, okay, is it even possible? Because where is it? Who's growing it? And then you get into the regulatory aspects. And there's some things that can, and some things we'll just have to push in the future. But man, I'm really excited about that vegan version.
So yes on the vegan and yes on new flavors, right?
Well, we talk about flavors. You know, it's got to be right. It's got to be the right flavor combination. We dive into where the flavors come from, what is involved in the flavors. But I'll say right now, today, you've got the tropical, fantastic flavor. And I call the tropical flavor a smart bomb versus chocolate, which is a sledgehammer, a very strong flavor.
Don't badmouth chocolate.
Yeah.
Not do that in front of me.
With the tropical, what you're going to find is it's such a delicate flavor, which is a positive thing. Whatever you put in there, it's going to explode with that flavor. Whether it's a banana, whether it's strawberries, whether it's blueberries, raspberries, It's a fantastic flavor that accentuates whatever you may put in there. You'll be surprised what combinations you can put with that tropical, and you'll say, it just picks up the natural fruits and flavors and explodes them in your mouth. The thing about tropical, the thing about chocolate, and the thing about greenberry is it's utilizing your taste buds. You're tasting real flavors, and your body's getting the real flavors that it can react to. That's good.
There was a question about fructose. There's been a lot of questions about fructose, and Darin, I know that we had a meeting with some of the trainers, and you were able to address some of these concerns about fructose. Do you mind maybe addressing that?
For sure. You know, back in 2006, when we're going through this whole thing, the thing is, we're talking about, and probably most of the research that I know of, is talking about fructose. It's talking about high fructose corn syrup, which obviously is not even close to being the same thing. Fructose, first off, we're getting it from beet and cane materials. And the interesting discovery on fructose for me was I literally looked throughout the whole United States, calling anyone and everyone I knew in the industry, and there's no clean, GMO-free fructose that existed. It was all tampered with. It was all GMO. So just be careful out there, even when you're seeing your juices and stuff and has fructose in it, that there's GMO influences in that. But fructose is also part of, keep in mind, going back to the orchestra, fructose is also part of an orchestra. We've got other materials in there, goji and camu and acai and these other things that have fructose, sucrose, dextrose, all of these things. So when fructose comes in, it's also part of that orchestra. So it's not, the research is not accurate for us because it's part of a synergy, A. B, the research that, I'll go back to quality. No one is doing the research on our quality. They're not doing on the stuff from the source that I eventually found in France and Austria, and got it certified GMO-free, and the care that went into that. So just be aware that there's a lot of stuff that go around with these partial truths, with a lot of lies attached to it, and the internet is such a great resource, but it's also something that can make something true that isn't. So when you're dealing with our fructose, there's a lot of care, is equally as all the other ones that went into that, with the synergy that it has with the other sugars in there. And sugars, by the way, are something that is only now, I believe, getting into the proper research that it needs, because there's micro sugars that are going on that we're just now getting into, and those things are immune boosting, anti-inflammatory, bioactive. So there's a lot going on with sugars. So a lot of the research is also a macro view at sugar. So that's kind of what I would say about that.
Okay. Well, I realize too that Shakeology, we actually submit for glycemic index test. It's got a low glycemic index. I mean, it's actually tested to prove that.
And how do we test that? Who tests that?
It goes to the glycemic laboratory up in Toronto, Canada, that helped develop the glycemic index. They actually test it on individuals, measure what effect it has on insulin. And again, low glycemic index. The tropical will be a low glycemic index. That's the reason a lot of diabetics, we use Shakeology, even though it's got fructose in it. It's a low glycemic index product.
That's again speaking to the alchemy, okay, the synergy that goes on. When things come together, they're better than the individual. So when that synergy and that orchestra, the whole game changes at that point. So you're able to have a product that has sugar in it and be very healthy to drink and low glycemic.
There are some actually writing in, we're talking about this, who are telling us that they have nutritionists who are saying that the per serving of sugar in a per serving basis is high. How would you respond to nutritionists who say that?
Well,
Have they eaten an apple?
yeah.
Have they seen how much sugar there is in an apple? Are they going to tell us that apple is bad for you?
Well, you don't have to be smart to be a nutritionist.
That's probably not a good response, though.
Probably not.
But you don't have to be too smart to do what you're doing.
It's a lot of these quote unquote experts will look at Shakeology and say it's got too much sugar in it. They don't realize that your brain needs sugar for energy. Your body needs sugar to replenish what you burned in the workout. So sugars are not bad. But like Isabelle is saying, how much sugar is in the apple? Look at that. How much sugar is in the orange? How much sugar is strawberries? All healthy.
Again, it's being like this. It's looking at things like, oh, I'm going to just make this the truth, and I'm going the rest of my life like this. It's just, open up, man. Put all of it together. We're so restricted by all these rules of these narrow tunnels, and you're stuck in a tunnel, you can't go anywhere. I can't have an apple.
Well, then
It's
it's got too much sugar.
crazy. Yeah.
Well, then you go to, well, you go back to them and you say, well, how did it get certified low glycemic then? And just sit back, when in doubt, ask them questions. Oh, interesting. How do you know that? Interesting. Do you know about the other 70 ingredients in it? Interesting. Do you know about whole food assimilation? Oh, interesting. Do you know about the tests that are being done versus isolates in whole food? Oh, you don't? Oh, interesting. So when in doubt, formulate questions to ask them, because I guarantee you'll get to a point where they're going to glaze. Watch it. They'll glaze over for a second, they'll click into their head, and they'll try to roundabout way of answering it. Either A, they'll just pony up to it and back off, or B, they'll just try to stumble and figure something out. But ask them questions, shoot it back at them. And then you gain that information too. You either gain more experience and also know when there's kind of people that think they know when they really don't.
Surprise, we have a few questions about constipation, a few questions about gas. Either all of you want to address either of those?
I think everybody who knows me knows that I love poop. Constipation is a horrible thing. What's going on? What is it about? I forgot. They have constipation and what? What's the question?
Gas.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, when they drink Shakeology.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, I'll let you do the intellectual version and I'll do, basically you can take Shakeology and think of it as a big broom that goes through your colon and allow things to exit. Depending on what's going on in there, when you put that synergy of elements that are cleaning you, feeding you, doing all these things internally. If you've had a lot of hot dogs at baseball games and things like that, a lot of white flour that is like glue layer all over your colon, it will go in and start cleaning it up. And as it does that, you may have symptoms. Gas, constipation, uncomfortableness sometimes. You can just, minimize the dose. Start with a half dose in the morning or a half dose in the afternoon. And if that feels good, you can keep on doing that for a long time. It may take up to 3 months, maybe more. Just minimize the dose until you're more comfortable so that it's not such a powwow ganged up on cleaning that up in there. So it's more progressive. So yeah, it's good, really. It's about letting go of what you do not need to have in there. So it's going in there and pushing it all the way out.
There's a cheer for that. We're not going to go there.
Think of that. That's what's happening inside. It's all good. Now I can give them the...
So you're talking about something that you're coming from a white sugar processed place, the thing that's adapted most in our bodies more than anything and has actually created us is these things called defective microorganisms. Okay, and if you've been doing a habit that hasn't been so great for you, those effective microorganisms have one thing in mind: they're going to survive, and they don't really care about you. So they're going to create an environment that works for them. So if you want to keep feeding them white sugar, high processed food, cool. Then those guys are going to thrive, and they're going to wreak havoc on your body. Okay? So when you take in something like Shakeology, it's got prebiotics. Well, guess what that is?
Sorry.
So prebiotics, what is that doing? Well, that's actually food for that better effective microorganism, that probiotic. And that other stuff that's off, that's going to start losing the game because you're going to shoot quality food. On top of it, the nutrients in Shakeology are also not feeding them. The prebiotic is specifically giving food to the probiotics. The other food is supporting the necessary acidic functions that are happening in digestion. So you're changing your whole microflora, and you have over 70 billion effective microorganisms in your body. That has created you. Okay? That is the genesis for everything that's going on in your body. So you're changing all of it. So there's a period of time where those guys that were thriving for a while,
They're pissed.
They're pissed, and they're dying, right? So there's some consequences to that. You can't just feel great all the time right away and changing a habit. Sometimes that happens. So it's not a law, it's not a rule. Every body is different. So just keep that in mind. Every person needs to check in with themselves, be aware of what works for them, and figure out if they want to stay with that little ride. That, what is it? Yeah, perfect. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, it's a big conversation, but there's a changing of the guard that's going on in your body, and it's...
Any transition comes with uncomfortableness to some level, you know? Anything, any habit will change. You'll be fighting it at the same time on emotional, physical, spiritual level. So it's not like it's a different thing here. It's the same thing. You're changing a habit, and there's a transition phase, and it's all good.
Let me just ask those in the audience, how many of you experienced, as you first started taking Shakeology, some of this discomfort, gas, intestinal pain, something like that, for just a short time, right?
See? Oh my God.
And then you pushed through?
Good for you guys.
Yeah, you got through it?
So you're the walking example of this.
I thought I was
Poop
the
dance.
only
We should
one.
start a poop dance at baby.
There's some question about the way. Question about the way for what makes our way a good way. I think there was some mention that we have a good way.
Bill, it's Bill.
Yeah, Bill. Go for it, Bill.
Okay.
We pet each cow.
Yeah.
They're
tranquil. Now our whey protein isolate is hormone-free, is antibiotic-free, it's pesticide-free. So again, it's a high-quality whey. Every batch is tested coming in to be sure that it maintains that quality. That's the reason that we have such a rich taste in Shakeology, is the whey is such a smooth, rich whey that it balances out the product as a whole.
Can those who are lactose intolerant take Shakeology?
I didn't hear what.
Lactose intolerant.
What about it?
Can they take Shakeology?
I'm very lactose intolerant. I can. I have no problem with it.
No problem.
You know, the experience I've had is someone will say, I can't drink Shakeology because I'm dairy intolerant or lactose intolerant. And usually what has happened to them, if I can talk with them a little bit, they've gone to their doctor with some kind of symptoms. The doctor says, are you taking any dairy? And they'll say, yes. The doctor says, well, that's what your problem is. You can't take dairy. These same people, if they will try Shakeology, they can drink it without a problem. Again, we use a whey protein isolate, but there may not really be lactose intolerant, or they will have tried protein shakes in the past that use low quality whey. Now, have you seen those buckets of whey that they sell at some of the health food stores, about 5 gallons for $19?
Please don't buy that.
That's about, that is one step above livestock feed. And consequently, the bloating and gas comes with that one. But if you look at the whey that we use grade number 7, which is the highest commercially available grade of whey that can be used. So again, I think that's a good comparison. That 5-gallon bucket for $19.99. Again, one step above livestock feed, the highest quality available, which is what we
Tough choice.
Yeah. And keep in mind too that the whey protein isolate means that 90% of that is protein. The 10% left over is some other bioactives, and maybe only a few percent could be lactose. On top of it, with the formula, I'm going back to the orchestration of the formula, the synergy, there's enzymes of lactase that we put in there to help digest anything that could be in there of lactose. Okay, does that make sense? So, again, we've supported that as best we can in the highest quality with the whey.
All right, our time's up. Thank you for asking questions. Thank you, panel.